Now let's clean up our frog's visuals. Right now our frog just kind of bounces back and forth while staring to the left, and we do have a jump animation, so let's use it and let's make our frog face the correct direction as well. We're going to select the frog and we're going to open up the frog script to start. And when we do a jump, the first thing I want to do is just change our jump direction. So every time we jump, after we jump, we'll turn our jump around. And to do that, we're going to add a new line after our add force. And we're going to say underscore jump force star equals, which is going to multiply it by some number. And we're going to multiply it by a new vector 2. And the first value of our vector 2 is going to be a -1. So this is going to flip our x of our jump force. So if we're going to the right, we're going to go to the left. If we're going to the left, we're going to flip it to the right. So it's going to go from negative to positive or positive to negative. The second value we're going to pass in is a 1 because we don't want to change our y. Our y should stay the same for every single jump. If we wanted to change that, we could do that here, but we don't. We're going to add a semicolon after our parentheses and then save, and this should make our character jump back and forth. Let's go make sure that that's correct before we continue on. So we'll go back in, we'll press play. I'm going to take my game view and drag it down here so I can watch the frog without having to run over there, because I'm feeling a little bit lazy. I don't want to run my character over there. So we watch our frog and he jumps any second now. And then I expect him to turn and jump back the other direction. All right, looking good. So he's doing his little bounce. That looks cool, but I want him to now face the correct direction as well. So let's go back to our frog and let's change his sprite renderer's flip X value. Remember, we used that to swap the direction that our player was facing. If we go find our player and look for flip, we should be able to see that we use our flip X value, but depending on if we're going to the right or the left. So we're going to go back over to our frog and do the same. When we jump, we'll say sprite renderer dot flip X equals, and here we're just going to do the opposite of what it currently is. To do that, we use the not sign. So shift and 1, which is the exclamation or not. It's kind of weird. It means a whole lot of things, but it means basically the inverse or the opposite of the value that we're going to give it. And the value we're going to give it is sprite renderer dot flip X. So we're going to set the value to whatever the opposite of the current value is. We'll save that off. Let's go back into Unity and try it again. We should be able to press play and watch our character kind of do a flip. Let's see if that's the truth. Or if I'm just making things up, or if he bounces and looks right. So he flips and he looks right. So he jumps, notice, and he switches directions at the same time. So it actually works out kind of perfect. The last thing I want to do though is show that sprite. I want to show the jump sprite because why not use it? We have a cool jump sprite. We should be showing it while we're in the air. So let's add a reference to a jump sprite right here in line 12, I guess. We'll add a serialized field and we'll call it, this will be a sprite, and we'll call this underscore jump sprite. This is something that we're going to assign, and then when we're jumping, we'll put that sprite in here. So we'll go down to line 25, and we'll say sprite renderer dot sprite equals underscore jump sprite. So when we start jumping, we'll put in that sprite. Let's save that off, go back into Unity, and assign our jump sprite to our frog now. It should appear here as a field. And we can hit the little search box, find all of our sprites. I'm just going to search for, oh, not for, a frog. There we go. Frog move. That's the jumping one. I clicked too many times. There we go. I've got my frog selected. I should be able to save, press play, and watch my frog switch to a jumping sprite. Let's see. Come along, little froggy. Jump, jump, jump. There we go. He jumps and okay, it's close, except when he lands, he doesn't switch back to the normal sprite. So the last thing we need to do is make him switch back to his normal sprite, and I'm going to leave this as a little challenge for you. Go ahead and see if you can figure out the code to make your frog switch back to the normal sprite when he lands on the ground. Don't do anything too complicated. You shouldn't need to do any raycasts or anything. Keep it relatively simple, and then once you're done, or if you get stuck, just unpause, continue on, and I'll show you the solution. All right, I'll assume that you've gone through it or you got stuck, no problem either way. So what we're gonna do is go into our frog and just listen for a collision enter. If we hit anything, we'll go to the idle mode. Even if we smack something on our head, it'll be fine. We'll just switch because we don't really have a sprite for that anyway. So we're gonna add an on collision enter right in between. Oh, actually, let's do it after our jump. Right after our jump, we'll do an on collision enter 2D because we're doing 2D graphics, 2D physics. We'll delete that private keyword. And here we're going to set the sprite renderer sprite back to its default sprite. So say sprite renderer dot sprite equals underscore default sprite. Now everything go, wait, we don't have a default sprite. Where did that come from? Oh, we just have to generate it. So we'll hit Alt Enter, generate a field for it, and we'll now have a sprite up here. I'm going to move that to be, well, let's delete the private keyword and move it to be up here right below my sprite renderer, but with a space. Since it's not a component, it is a cached property of a component or a cached field of a component. I want to have a little bit of spacing there, just the way that I like to organize my things. So now we need to set this default sprite, and we can do that right here after line 19 on line 20. We'll say underscore deep. Oh, look at that. It already knew what I want. Well, it kind of knew what I wanted to do. We want to say underscore default sprite equals sprite renderer dot sprite. So this is going to get the sprite that we had before, adding an extra space there. Get the sprite that we start with as the default. When we land on the ground, we'll switch back to that. So we'll save, or really when we hit anything, we're going to switch back to it. But that's good enough for now. We don't necessarily need to worry. If we hit a player, we want to kill the player. If we hit something else, we don't have really a sprite to deal with that. And if we're hitting our head on something, we probably placed our frog wrong. So let's let the frog jump and see if he does his thing. There we go. He bounces to the right. Looks good. He bounces to the left. So far, I'm loving it. All right, we'll stop playing. I'm going to save my scene, go to plastic, and say that we've added, or up, how do I want to put this? Frog flips graphics. And I think that's, oh, and sprite. Yeah. Frog flips graphics. That's probably enough. I'm not sure what to put for my check-in, so I'll put that and hit the button.